Good morning. Harlan, thank you very much. Mr. Bell, thank you to the class of 1953. What an honor it is to be with you today, not only speaking to the next class and classes that will be at Darlington, but actually to make sure that as we move forward, that some of the things which you strongly believe in are carried forward to make sure that this school represents the ideals from when it was begun. I think that it's important always for a school to be adaptive for the future, but I will tell you as I read what is called Just the Facts that Mr. Bell has talked about today, your mission statement and your motto actually represent not only the very best, I think, of thought, but it gives each individual an opportunity to achieve those goals that they think would be necessary. There they are. He took my glasses. And you guys that are class of 19, 20, and 21, you don't know what these are yet, but they're called readers. And while I could read this, I'd have to squint. Thank you, Harlan. Yesterday, I had an opportunity to be in 4 classes, and it offered me an opportunity to not only engage the top students of this institution, but it gave me an opportunity to once again be around the brightest and the best that I believe our country has to offer the world. I believe we are the brightest and best. I am a Texan, that is right, but I'm also an American, and I deeply believe in our country, I deeply believe in our systems, and I deeply believe that we have to subscribe ourselves to some of the ideals that our founding fathers brought forth with an opportunity to make sure we make it work today. Last night I stayed at the hotel and got up this morning and had a chance to see the USA Today. USA Today is a common newspaper that is transmitted around the country, but it has the lead statement that says, "Buyer beware." And that is said today, you are a buyer. I am a seller. And today, as your speaker, I want to take a few minutes and try and provide to you a bit of substance that I believe, not just from experience of a 63-year-old, not just as an honorary class of 1953, which they bestowed upon me last night, but actually some common sense things that I believe will help you as you develop yourself, which is what you are trying to do now. Yesterday, I was in AP Economics, AP World History, AP Government, and AP History. And we discussed lots of areas. Those of you that were in those classes know that we had a spirited opportunity perhaps to hear things that you and maybe your instructors had not heard before. Because I came from a very specific perspective, and that is not just 22 years in Congress, but for 6 years as chairman of the House Rules Committee. No other committee in Congress handles every single piece of legislation with an opportunity to update and change every single piece of legislation, even if it means with a comma or adding a particular word. But we talked about in the classes the nuances of effectiveness in getting things done. So I understood and you understood yesterday that there is much ahead, not only for you and your development and your leadership, but also you understood that what I was selling to you was a dose of reality about what lies in your future. Not in politics, but in any area of growth that you choose. Because each of you are successful. Each of you will go to college. Each of you will find an avenue, a way that you will present yourself to the marketplace, that you will make a difference. But I want to be clear that today I am here to sell something, and I would like for you to be a buyer. And the first thing I'd like to say is that our system of laws and our system of economics and the system that has been laid out that is an American experience before you, I believe is very important for you to understand. I believe that Americanism, our rule of law, intellectual property, our court systems, our Constitution, is important for you to understand because it is the underpinning of what makes us the greatest nation in the world. But conversely, what is implied in that is that we have people who actually understand that system. And each of you as buyers today turn on your TV or your iPhone, and you're really overwhelmed with the amount of information and data that comes to you. You mostly see failures, not success. You mostly see mistakes, not opportunities. You mostly see things that are systematic failures, either in a system or of people. Today, I would like to focus on the people aspect. You, the buyer, me, the seller, the medium, the message. You have in the last 2 weeks seen some of the biggest frailties of human nature that come not just from greed, but some that come out of love. As you saw the college experience where parents went and actually paid money that is against the law to influence people to get their children so that they went to and graduated from the school that they would choose. You recognize what is wrong with that. I recognize what is wrong with it. But at the core of it, it is a lack of character. It is a lack of character. It is a lack of respect. And it really, quite honestly, comes down to, I had the money and I could do it. And there was a willing person who would do it for me. I think it's important for us to understand that if that is the goal that we have, that money in an economic system would buy us whatever we want, we have made a mistake. I would like to pitch to you today that character actually matters. Yes, the law is important, and the law is there to be followed. But the law is a guidepost of things actually perhaps not to do or draws the line. What I'd like to do today is to give you a glimpse of part of my 22 years in the United States Congress. Regularly, my office was in the Capitol, and I would go back and forth through the Capitol, and I would see sayings that were on the wall. Sayings on the wall that become principles, I believe. One of them is very plain spoken when it says, whenever a people or an institution forgets its hard beginnings, it is beginning to decay. Whenever a people or an institution forgets its hard beginnings, it is beginning to decay. That was not said last year. That was said by a poet and a writer of the time in 1963, a person who the front two rows understands, Carl Sandburg. And Carl Sandburg wrote it because he saw, even in 1963, that the original intent of what made this country great still should be things that we should understand and not forget. The second motto, so to speak, that I live by and that I try and understand and remember, I'm the seller, you are the buyer. On a wall in the basement of the United States Capitol in Washington, there is a bas relief that depicts a Greek warrior engaged in mortal combat with a snake. The artist captures the moment when the man raises his sword to strike the death blow. And underneath on the tableau is one word: courage. The courage to take on a menace, a snake. Artistically, physical courage is easy to depict. Moral character is another matter. Moral courage requires taking a cold, hard look at the world and then acting, accepting the consequences and knowing that the greatest good will ultimately be served. Moral courage demands sacrifice, the subordination of self-interest to the interest of others. To be morally or intellectually courageous requires a basic sense of honesty coupled with the will to act decisively on those principles. Moral character is of great matter in a leader and will inevitably affect the substance of that performance. Courage, character, and performance cannot be separated. My young students in class of 1953, you come today at a point not only in your life, but based upon the experience that you have. The class of 1953 has a lot of experience, and in looking back and in seeing the world today, they might offer different suggestions to you than you would as the class of 19, 20, or 21 would think about. But what is true is that the common denominator that rides within that endeavor is that character will ultimately determine your success or your failure. How you do what you do does matter, and what you do does matter. But what matters is that you do it with the character trait. And I think that is what I'm trying to sell today. I am trying to sell to you that I believe that a code of honor, a code of accepting a higher plane, accepting really things that do matter all the way to the end, is what you should aim for and strive for. A code of honor is something that as I grew up, I understood most and recognized very plainly. I had a father who, and still have a father, who is an enormous figure, not just in my life, but in the life of this country. He served as a federal judge for 14 years, took on the biggest cases in this country, and served as FBI director, the fourth FBI director for President Reagan, President Bush, and President Clinton. And during that period of time, he dealt with people who lacked character, who lacked the ability to have performance, and lacked the ability to really stand up to the truth. What I pitch to you today is that it is not too early for you to begin the deep process of inward thinking, of challenging yourself, not just about what's right and what's wrong, what's good and what's bad, but I actually challenge you today to begin the strong undertaking about your own strike zone, who you are. I found at age 16, when I was out at Philmont Scout Ranch at about 11,000 feet, that I found out in looking at the heavens that there really is a God and an order to our universe and other universes. But it led me to discover about myself. The Darlington experience is about finding yourself and then knowing you can get to anywhere you want from here. Because this is a place of not just love and not just the satisfaction of having someone that cares about you, but actually, I think the ultimate of giving you something that you can take and do something with. And that is the essence of education. Can we, those that are learned and have experience, can we pass to you the confidence, the reality that the class of 1953 has something to say to you? And part of that message is what I'm giving today. And that is oh, you young tigers, you must understand that you have a responsibility that is greater than just to your family name. It is actually placed upon you to go forth in the world with honor and distinction and character, to make things of yourself, and that there is a judgment. There is a judgment day, not just every day, but there is a judgment day that you will be held accountable for, perhaps on the last great day, perhaps the next time you see your best friend who looks at you and consoles you. Perhaps you console them. It's a test of 10,000 days in your immediate future. And these next 10,000 days are the formation of what will give you and make you prepared for the future. I want to today to give you several ways to think about that. And one is, and I was raised in Texas in the Methodist Church, and I know what the good book is. The good book is, maybe the senior pastor speaks from here, is the Bible. But my also good book is the Boy Scout Handbook. And the Boy Scout Handbook, as you may suspect, talks a lot about not just living life and how to be successful, but how to get through it, adversity. But one of the chapters that's here is all Boy Scouts and Eagle Scouts learn map and compass. And in a way, I'd like to give you an analogy today. And the analogy is that when I was growing up and younger than you, but certainly your age, we were taught about map and compass, but we also went to church and heard about map and compass. Because what we heard about was living a life that's true north. True north as an analogy means how you live your life, not just what direction you're going, walking, headed, but where are you as a person towards living a life that is full of fulfillment and that makes a difference. The word I'd like to pitch to you today and that the students heard yesterday was declination. Declination is a term that is the difference between magnetic north and true north. And I would position to you today that I think that true north is something that you, if you want to accept character, you need to develop a true north about your life. What are principles that are important to you? My principles may be slightly different, but they become almost inalienable rights that you will never violate. That's a code of honor that I would like to see you develop. And everything else can be within, instead of true north, the magnetic north, 4 degrees off. I'm suggesting to you, because you are educated young people and disciplined, and because you want to be successful, and the class of 1953 wants you to be successful, you need to be a disciplined person. You need to accept responsibilities, not shirk a task. You need to be honest in your relationships. That's magnetic north. That's everything else. Only 4 degrees off out of 360. I want you to be successful. We want you to be happy. But I will tell you that if you developed a code of honor, a code of ethics, and a code of principles, you are well on the way. I want to end today with putting them into perspective that is not the Boy Scouts of America, but it's something that Texans, probably to the 99th percent degree, agree with, and we put it in writing. And it is called Code of the West. And it deals with more than just a philosophy. It is a way of life. Once again, I am a seller. You are a buyer. You are listening today to take in what you can, and I want to pitch to you ethics, code of honor, and making that work in life. Code of the West, number 1, live each day with courage. Take pride in your work. Always finish what you start. Do what has to be done. Be tough, but fair. When you make a promise, keep it. Ride for the brand. Talk less and say more. That means through your actions. Remember that some things are not for sale. And lastly, know where to draw the line. My young students, you represent the greatest future of the greatest country, the United States of America. We actually need you to understand what I said, and that is whenever a people or an institution, meaning Darlington, whenever it forgets what it is here to do that came from hard beginnings, sacrifice, a visionary plan, and sticking to it, whenever you forget the road that you're on or the mission that you serve or the need of others, you have failed. It is time to stop. It is time to reevaluate, and it is time to get back on the road. I would pitch to you today that as a father of 2 children, one who is in medical school, who is in the top 2 or 3% academically in this country, and one of a father of Bill's little brother who is a Down syndrome young man who is in the bottom 4% academically, I have raised 2 sons who have been on the top of the mountain, both of them in their own way. I do not demand that you win every time. I do not demand that you take on every fight, every battle, every issue. I do demand that you do your very best. Never give up on yourself, and by doing your best and living with character, you will find that when your class is called in 60 years from now, that you will want to come back and see the bright, young, happy students who are at Darlington who know that they remembered and Darlington remembered that when a people or institution forgets its hard beginnings, it is beginning to decay. I will tell you, I believe you will come back and be very happy with what you see, not only in this institution, but in the students who accept the challenge to make America great. Thank you, and God bless you.